Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this episode of CT Tech Talks. I'm Madison Doner, a partner marketing strategist, and on today's call, I have Sam Barron and Doug Zingali with us. Hey, guys, how are you guys doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having us, Madison.
What's up, Madison?
Nothing. Love having you guys on the podcast. So today we are kind of giving a scenario to partners, giving them an idea of how Call Tower could fit in different verticals and different situations. So I have the scenario for you guys about scaling communication infrastructure for a global startup. So here's the scenario. A fast-growing tech startup is expanding its operations internationally. However, they are struggling to scale their communication infrastructure. Their team members, now spread across different time zones, face connectivity issues and lack an effective way to collaborate on global projects. So, with that being said, how would you guys project Call Tower onto the partner? How would we fit? What solution would you recommend? And what type of discovery questions would you ask this partner?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Madison, great use case and pretty complex one at that. But really where we start is when Call Tower is working with customers, we want to make sure we're providing the right solution because we have, a couple different platforms that we can offer. So we'd start with different discovery questions depending on how we're meeting with and, consulting with the customer basically, right? So when it comes to that, what we would want to understand is kind of what they're using as underlying platforms at the organization today. Why are they having these communication issues internally and externally? What platforms are they using from a business application perspective? And then we'd really be able to dive into them to hopefully solve for those, platform problems that they're having, right? Doug, I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, kind of how you communicate with your partners and customers.
Yeah, just to do a quick intro for those who don't know, I'm the channel manager here at Call Tower in the New York, New Jersey region. So handle all the partner relationships there. Obviously work with our partners to enable their customers to find the right solution possible. So really when they're bringing their opportunities to us, the kind of first step is to kind of walk through the opportunity with myself and Sam, and kind of figure out what might be the right fit before we even go into a customer discussion. I think it would be important, like Sam had mentioned, to figure out, what sort of underlying platform from a software perspective they're using for collaboration. How are they collaborating, right? Do they have users in office, whether it's, across the globe, or they a lot work from home, right? How are they specifically doing that? A lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls. Are people on the go, right? Are they using their cell phones a lot? Are they using their soft phones? Do they maybe need hard phones? So it all depends on kind of what they're going to do there. So I think it would be important to understand all of those characteristics before we could kind of go into, okay, maybe we need to look at a Microsoft Teams operator connector direct routing solution or a Cisco WebEx calling solution, depending on, what sort of requirements that they have in those specific areas. So specifically when it comes to maybe even needing texting, if that's the way they collaborate with some of their customers and or internal project managers there, and some different requirements that we may be able to fulfill for them in this project.
Yeah, that's really the important piece, right? Is diving into the customer's requirements, because a lot of the collaboration tools or unified communication platforms that we connect into do very similar things, right? Whether that's Teams, WebEx calling, or Zoom. Understanding the customer's landscape, platforms they're using, business applications they're using, and obviously the feature requirements like Doug mentioned, that's a key component of this so we can make sure we're positioning the right platform.
Yeah, and I think from a global perspective too, when we talk about a global company, scalability, right, we want to talk about, Teams, Cisco, Zoom, right? Just from a perspective of, number one, we like to say at Call Tower, hey, we're going to be the last port you'll ever have. So no matter what, if you have users who want to go the Zoom direction, Cisco or Teams, that could change every 3 to 5 years, depending on how the market is, right? We hope that as long as you're on our service, we'll be able to, we can go back and forth depending on what they would want or stick with one, right? I think it's important for scalability just in the management of those platforms, right? The ease of management, Call Tower's ability to help with the management of those platforms and during implementation of the project. And then on our account management team, who will be there every step of the way after activation to actually help those customers, whether it be adding on new users or adding on new services, Obviously a scalable global customer could, one day not have a contact center, then need a contact center, not have call recording, need call recording, right? So different options, different things that we're going to help you out with along the way for a global organization who's looking to take everything to the cloud.
Yeah, I think that's actually an important piece Doug brought up as well. Going back to Madison's use case, this customer has, global locations. They're a tech startup, it sounds like, and they're having trouble, communicating and collaborating. So a key component of what we're offering is, yes, a flexible voice solution that can connect into various platforms. But we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to consolidate those feature capabilities into a single platform, because then it will hopefully reduce the communication issues this customer's having, right? It's probably has to do with, having too many applications, maybe end user training, right? Maybe too complex end user applications that they're not familiar with using, right? All these things kind of play in the factor of what Doug was just mentioning, is figuring out what the customer needs, the requirements they have as far as communication goes, and then really helping them consolidate it to a single interface so their end users aren't getting, confused or fatigued by using too many, different software applications.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think, for the most part, once we go through and dive in with the partner or, trusted advisor here in this case, after that, our next step would obviously be to walk through a customer demo of who Call Tower is, walk through those requirements that our partner has given us the information on, and then sort of figure out, okay, project planning, where, when do they want to be implemented? What does that look like to them? Do they want to do a phased implementation, right? If they're global, maybe they're going to have some requirements to, in different sites, different locations are going to be, implemented at different times, right? I think that also, matters for the tech team too as well, right? They could have different users on at different times, which could also add to communication barriers. So, being able to open that up in some sort of way would be massive. But I think, it's all about, some of the other solutions. Of course, we're going to add dial tone, right, to these different software collaboration platforms. But some of the things that we can do to add on to these services, I think Sam can kind of break that down, can really be super helpful when it comes to these growing, young organizations.
For sure. Madison, do you want to say something before I jump in and
No,
talk about some of those things? All right.
No, I was gonna say that would be great for Sam to touch on some of those things. I know, Sam, but before we had our EMEA team, you and Chuck were doing a lot of those EMEA deals, global companies dealing with those connectivity issues. So I think, Doug, Chuck, touching on that eSIM option that we now offer, we're hoping to get it into WhatsApp as well. So I think that's, something that would be great for a startup like this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, touching on that, really, again, it's about first figuring out the requirements of the customer and then figuring out what their pain points are and why they're not able to do certain things internally and why they're having these communication issues. But a piece of that is, once we figure that out, some of the solutions that are available now would be like a Teams mobile experience or a WebEx mobile experience. Basically, what that is doing, especially for a global company like this, where they have multiple locations and they're communicating with their internal colleagues in different manners, whether that's on a cell phone or a physical handset or the application itself. But what that Teams mobile or eSIM option that Doug alluded to earlier is doing for customers, it's allowing organizations that have people using physical phones on their desktop, using a soft phone application, or even using a cell phone to communicate and collaborate internally, by allowing us to tie in their cell phone service to the unified communication solution. So a perfect example of that is, let's say we provide voice services into Microsoft Teams, for example. In Teams, they're going to have their soft phone application. They're going to be able to make and receive calls right to their computer app, their mobile app, whatever device they have Teams downloaded on, a physical phone even, right? But if they have some use cases like a logistics company who has like truck drivers driving around all the time, and maybe they just have a cell phone, they don't necessarily need the Teams application on that cell phone. And maybe they're driving through rural areas where they don't have the best reception from a data perspective, but they still have wireless service, meaning they can make and receive cell phone calls. That's a perfect use case for a scenario like this. Another good use case would be like a construction company that has multiple, projects that's going on at a given time. and they have these, project managers on site or construction management personnel on site where they might have a cell phone, but they don't have great internet connectivity there. So if they want to communicate with the back office for purposes of like, budgeting or just talking with someone at corporate, they'll be able to do that all on net and all on, the same provider plan in this case. So really what it's coming down to, again, is consolidation, allowing us to provide multiple forms of communication for the customer and allowing them to leverage different pieces of the communication tool versus just having, a consolidated platform across the board. It's really some of these add-on services that are becoming more and more useful for companies, especially those in the global, with global reach like this company you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Doug, is there anything else you want to add before I wrap up here?
No, I just think that from a sales perspective, obviously that's going to make the customer a lot stickier, right? "Quote unquote stickier," right? It's something that you're providing value to the customer outside of just traditional unified communication, abilities, right? Something that a customer, might not know is a need or might be a future state need, that we can come and provide over the top for them. There's numerous different solutions that we have, right? That helps, Cisco, Teams, Zoom, be a full-fledged sort of platform that you only really need to come to Call Tower for. And I think that's, really helpful for our partners to provide value for their customers in that way.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for providing more value to our partners today during our podcast. And partners, if you learned from this and you want to connect with Doug and Sam, or, we can connect you with the correct channel director for your region, feel free to reach out. Thank you, Sam and Doug, so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Madison.
Thanks, Madison.